Federal government expresses displeasure over the treatment of Nigerians in South Africa, dispatches special envoy there.
Government reiterates stance on $9.6 billion judgment debt against Nigeria.
Funds for local government areas are for grassroots development, SGF tells state governors.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on the incessant attacks on Nigerians by South Africans in South Africa.
Fresh attacks, destruction and burning of businesses belonging to Nigerians and nationals of other countries resumed days ago in South Africa.
Now, these ruthless attacks claimed not just property, but also the lives of some Nigerians in South Africa, with survivors left to tell harrowing tales.
Over the weekend, reports indicated that precisely on Sunday morning in Jamestown area of Johannesburg was set ablaze by a well-organized and coordinated groups of violent locals suspected to be Zulus. Hostels, dwellers who besieged Jewel Streets in Malvern, Johannesburg, looting and burning shops and businesses, with Nigerians being most of the victims.
Well, in reaction to this latest round of attacks against Nigerians, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has dispatched a special envoy to South Africa, while Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister also summoned the South African High Commissioner to Nigeria for a brief on the situation.
Though the South African government says it has arrested over 70 people in connection to the incident, the cycle, which began years ago, continues, with more Nigerians losing their lives and livelihoods.
Well, Nigeria's High Commissioner to South Africa, Ambassador Kabiru Bala, says that victims of the latest round of wanton violence should be compensated. It's also called for calm amongst Nigerians as diplomatic options are being explored to help address the issue.
Well, in the midst of these efforts to ease tension, reprisal attacks on South African businesses in Lagos on Tuesday has added a new dimension to the situation.
Well, the question that arises is diplomacy proving to be ineffective in this matter? What other measures can be taken by both countries, and indeed other countries whose nationals are the usual targets of the attacks by South Africans? And why is it that South African authorities apparently have failed to put a stop to the current cycle of violence against nationals of other countries? Now, what will these developments portend, of course, for relations between South Africa and other countries, against the background, of course, of the immense support that African countries, especially Nigeria, gave to South African blacks in the course of the historic struggle against apartheid? The wars of apartheid fell 25 years ago, and of course, a number of analysts are wondering just what is playing out today in South Africa. We'll have our guests in our conversation segment to take a look at this issue one more time. It's Good Morning Nigeria. Thanks for joining us for today's edition. We are broadcasting, as always, live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's a happy morning, of course, for a number of tennis fans. They saw what happened about 2 hours ago when there was an upset at the US Open against the great Roger Federer, who exited in the quarterfinals. 5 grueling sets. Grigor Dimitrov is now through to the semifinals. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Rhoda Anonam. I join Kingsley in welcoming you to today's edition. As always, we'll have a complimentary segments of the program, and that includes our newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. But as always, the news comes first. And Comfort Amadu is here with us this morning. Hello, Comfort. Good morning.
Good morning, Rhoda. Good morning, Nigeria. Here's the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari has noted with deep concern reported attacks on Nigerian citizens and property in South Africa since August 29th last month. In a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, the President has instructed the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama, to summon the South African High Commissioner to Nigeria and get a brief on the situation, express Nigerians' displeasure over the treatment of her citizens and assurance of the safety of their lives and property. President Buhari has also dispatched a special envoy to convey to President Cyril Ramaphosa his concerns and also interact with his South African counterpart on the situation. And the special envoy is expected to arrive in Pretoria latest Thursday, September 5th, 2019. And in a swift reaction, the federal government says it is pushing to ensure persons who looted shops belonging to Nigerians in South Africa are held accountable for their crimes and the shop owners compensated. This was at a meeting between Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama, and the South Africa High Commissioner to Nigeria, Bobby Monroe.
Essentially, being prepared to preempt such attacks and taking other measures, including compensation and so forth.
It is therefore quite very unfortunate. For us, these are acts that continue to demonstrate that there are criminals within society that seek to destabilize the country.
Meanwhile, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has appealed to Nigerians not to engage in any reprisal attacks the South Africans and their investments in Nigeria. The Vice President says government is already taking actions at the highest level to see to an end these xenophobic attacks and ensures that the perpetrators are punished.
We're hearing of attacks or attempted attacks on MTN or ShopRite. We'll be shooting ourselves in the foot. MTN is a publicly quoted company in Nigeria today. Most of its shareholders, many of its shareholders are Nigerians. ShopRite, the malls, most of the shops are owned by Nigerians. So if those businesses are hurt in any way, we'll be hurting ourselves. We'll be hurting ourselves as Nigerians. So what I really want to call for calm and let us take a peaceful approach to this. The government has already in very strong terms expressed our outrage to the South African government, and the President has also decided that an envoy will be going over to South Africa.
Nigeria has promised to deepen existing collaboration and cooperation with Ukraine in critical economic sectors for enhanced benefit to both countries and their people. President Muhammadu Buhari gave the assurance while exchanging views with the outgoing Ukrainian ambassador. The president also granted a farewell audience to Sri Lankan envoy, promising to take another look at the closure of the Nigerian embassy in the Asian country. In Information and Culture, Minister Lai Mohammed has restated the federal government's determination to pursue for the reversal of the United Kingdom court ruling against Nigeria and in favor of Process and Industrial Development Limited. The minister stated this when he visited the corporate headquarters of Leadership Newspapers in Abuja.
That the award is exorbitant, is excessive, manifestly unreasonable. It goes beyond protecting the commercial interests of the company. It's punitive in nature. I mean, and this is why we appeal to the sense of patriotism of our media in particular, to understand what the issues are. That it's not about one administration or the other, it's about Nigeria.
The Buhari administration will not tolerate the mismanagement of funds meant for local governments to develop the grassroots. Secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustapha, who stated this in a message to the ongoing Nigerian Local Government Development Summit in Abuja, urged state governors that are foot dragging on Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit guidelines to implement them without delay.
I believe the government should take a keen interest in banks that are supporting this, because we know that in some states some accounts are being created and these monies are being, other payments of salaries, what is supposed to remain the amount trigger is being paid in these accounts.
Meanwhile, Plateau State Governor Simon Bakola says his final term in office will see the implementation of critical projects that will be a lasting legacy for people of the state. Governor Simon Bakola was speaking during the swearing-in of the new secretary to the state government, Professor Danladi Abok Atu, and the Chief of Staff, Noel Donjo.
Some people are still lobbying for commissioners. Let me tell you, you don't need to lobby. I have finished. Having served the state for now 5 years, nobody can tell me where I went to do campaign. Nobody can tell me who is good and who is not good. And the last lap of administration, I will be the one to take responsibility.
A 7th senator representing Bayelsa Central Senatorial District, Doye Diro, has been declared winner of the PDP primary to fly the party's flag in the November 16 governorship elections. Senator Doye Diro scored 561 votes to beat other 20 aspirants, with Ndutimi Alibe coming second with 365 votes. Chairman of the Electoral Committee and Governor of Taraba State, Darius Dixon Ishaku, made the declaration at the Gabriel Okara Cultural Center venue of the primary in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. Darius Ishaku commended the delegates for the peaceful manner the election was conducted. Meanwhile, Kogi State PDP primaries ended in a stalemate following sporadic shooting during the counting process. That's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues shortly with Kingsley and Rhoda after the break.
Igboro na sharp guy, Igboro na wise guy, Igboro they code everybody, Igboro they feel funky. Igboro na smart guy, anywhere he they go he they shine eye. Igboro no dey slack, Igboro is very connected. Igboro they judge everybody, and they know they trust anybody. Igboro they look everybody like say them is suspect. Nobody wanna trust nobody, but everybody.
Don't be like him. Free your mind with Airtel Smart Talk and enjoy calls to all networks at a flat rate of 11 kobo per second. 7 naira fee on the first call of the day applies. Dial *315# to join.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Please, did you hear that?
Of course I did. That is Village Elmaster tune.
So, Auntie Amebo was not gossiping then?
Village Elmaster is celebrating 50 years.
50? Already? This is not a joke.
It is a national celebration. NTA and Village Elmaster family are commemorating 50 years.
Hey, please, tell me, when is our Golden Jubilee?
It is from the 8th to 11th of October, 2019.
I have to go and get ready. It's time to party.
Women. But we, men, will be there too.
Please.
Now, time for us to take some business stories, with African countries being urged to develop digital trade as the World Economic Forum on Africa opens in Cape Town. Plus, Nigerian economy expands by 1.94% for the second quarter of 2019. Details of these stories with our business correspondent.
The African Union Commission and the Economic Commission for Africa have been challenged by governments in the region to develop a digital trade and digital economy development strategy by February 2020. This was at the launch of a roadmap to sustainable development by Africa e-commerce action agenda preparatory to the 28th World Economic Forum on Africa holding in Cape Town, South Africa. The forum says e-commerce has the potential to create more than 3 million new jobs in Africa by the year 2025. The 8-step action plan to realize the benefits of e-commerce for the continent includes refresh policies, expand connectivity, upgrade of logistics and enablement of e-payments, data management, growing of the tech industry, coaching of small business, as well as joining forces with Africa's political leaders, the international trade community and the development community to fully harness the power of the digital marketplace. These financial experts say it's timely, saying that e-commerce is the future, emphasizing that Nigeria needs to leverage on it in view of the global economic challenges.
We expect foreign investors to come and do business with us. We expect people, funding organizations to look into our ICT hub, 55 of them, which is one of the highest, in the continent. We expect people to. The power sector is a very attractive area that people can actually come and invest in. We are open to public-private partnership. The government is willing to partner with any willing investor to actually come establish a whole lot, everything, clothing, consumables, everything you think you want to produce, you already have the market in Nigeria.
And the latest gross domestic product report released by the National Bureau of Statistics indicates that Nigeria's economy grew slower in the second quarter of 2019 than it did in the first quarter. Nigeria's GDP dropped to 1.94% in the second quarter from 2.1% it recorded in the first and gained 0.44% year on year. In the report, the NBS finds that performance in the second quarter is not as strong as the previous quarter. It was likely aided by stability in oil output as well as the successful political transition, while crude oil dipped to 1.98 million barrels per day from 1.99 million in the previous quarter. Meanwhile, the Nigerian stock market ended the day's session on a positive note with an uptrend of 0.08% to close at 27,586.79 points as against plus 0.14% appreciation previously. Its year-to-date returns currently stands at minus 12.23%.
Thank you, Comfort Amadu, for the business news package. Time now for us to review some of the papers.
All right, our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyebe, is here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Robert.
Thank you very much, Bayo. Well, let's begin our review this morning with the New Telegraph. Let's see what we have in the New Telegraph. Well, almost all the papers have just one lead story, and that's on the attack on Nigerians and other Africans in South Africa. And the New Telegraph, let's begin from above the nameplate. It says, Buhari to manufacturers, help rescue Nigerian economy. Man, while industries are dying, Afrimex donates $500 million to manufacturers. And the lead story here, xenophobic attacks, angry Nigerians attack ShopRite MTN offices. xenophobic attacks. Angry Nigerians attack ShopRite MTN offices. That's the lead story with some riders there. Protester feared killed. Police van burnt in Lagos. Don't attack South African firms. Federal government begs. And Nigeria seeks compensation for losses in South Africa. FG Moles deploying Nigeria police in South Africa. And let's take a look at other stories just before. The lead story says Taraba killings. Army vows to punish indicted officers and soldiers. Kingsmen move to recall Okorocha from Senate. That's on 34. On page 9, again, EFCC arrests 3 suspects of FBI's list. Recover 423 million naira. Now, let's move to the foot of the paper. NNPC redeploys 12 NPDC top officials over inefficiency, with riders there says shake-up will affect more managers. And of course, those are, of course, the lead stories or the stories that are trending on the New Telegraph this morning. Kingsley.
Well, the 3 papers I have, all of them have as their lead story the matters arising from the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. And the blueprint has it this way: xenophobic attacks. Buhari sends special envoy to South Africa with a number of riders. Nigerians protest at embassy in Pretoria. That would be High Commission in Pretoria. Attacks not targeted at Nigerians. That's attributed to South Africa's High Commissioner to Nigeria. They are reckless, but we won't retaliate. That's Vice President Oshibajo and Foreign Affairs Minister Onyema. Too early for South Africans to forget their history, according to the ruling All Progressives Congress in Nigeria. And security forces on high alert. That's attributed to South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. For the Leadership newspaper, it also comes with a kicker: xenophobic attacks, outrage among Nigerians as President Muhammadu Buhari sends special envoy to South Africa. Summons High Commissioner. Enough is enough. That's according to the Senate President, and Nigeria Embassy compiles victims list. Details of that story can be found on page 4. Daily Times also has it: South Africa xenophobic attacks. Nigerians attack ShopRite and MTN facilities in Lagos. And Buhari, of course, sending a special envoy to South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, and federal government to dispatch security agents to South Africa as Lawan, the Senate President, APC and PDP flee South African government.
It's also the same story. Let me just quickly take Nigerian pilots. It's the same story. It says racism, xenophobic attacks, federal government demands compensation from South African government, dispatches special envoy, summons South African commissioner, Nigeria security operatives set for South Africa to take over security at High Commission, protect Nigerians as reps position for emergency session. That's the lead story with riders there. That's that story that's trending. All right, Maya, let's get your take on all these
Yes, actually there's condemnation everywhere about the xenophobic attack. But primarily, President has raised a special envoy that is to travel to South Africa, not only to register Nigeria's objection to it, but also to demand justice for the Nigerians that have become victims there. The Vice President, Professor Oshibajo, also says that the attack were not only mindless, but absolutely unacceptable, unreasonable, and condemnable. The South African High Commissioner to Nigeria was summoned to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs did not waste time in telling him specifically that looted shops that of Nigerians that have become the victims must be listed, the criminals must be arrested, and those who lost property must also be compensated. It appears that the attack was well coordinated. It started first 2:30 a.m. and the second one by people described as migrant Zulu hostel dwellers also came up later in the afternoon the following day. The police were reported to have dispersed the mob. However, here in Nigeria, the Nigerian police had a tough time restraining protesters, particularly in Lekki Peninsula, where some tires were burnt, and also in Surulere. A protester was shot because they had set up ablaze a cotton-nosed
in educational
supervise it. This has led to
those that among all the stealing job from
or people teams
Nigerian business. It has to, but they are using this.
We know,
we curriculum totally to make sure that from primary school to secondary school, because
South Africa has about 3 million foreigners. Nigerians
complicit in what is going on in Southern Africa. This is not just about this attack. It is something that has been lingering, and it is something that has been condoned and has been neglected. It is something that, it's a conversation that we have refused to have. The reality is this: when you look at the internal configuration of Southern Africa, for example, the reason why I've said the Southern African government fought in their campaign, they use this. This is a monster that has been created by the Southern African. Robert Mugabe, the last time, added his voice to this when we heard the Zulu king say people should go out and kill people because they're coming to take over their job. Mugabe said this. How can a medical doctor take over the job of a native doctor? You know, it just doesn't add up. It's crisis. So,
with this conversation, I'm sure if the director has it on cue.
Question arises from the international community, from world leaders, on the need for them to do the needful to ensure that they put in place the necessary framework. 1, to stop this attack. 2, to educate and enlighten their citizens through the educational system. 3, to ensure
South African government is behind the attacks. Joburg mayor is behind the attacks, and we all know this truth. If they want us to leave South Africa, they must give us some time to sell our businesses and cars. We shall never run away with empty hands after 20 years here in South Africa. I think he's tweeting from South Africa.
That's right. Now, Titus Boldenog, I feel so disappointed that this is happening now. I was opportune to have schooled with some South African students under the Nigerian government scholarships, and also knew where Nigerians were contributing from their pockets
citizens back
as economic agents. And
is because diplomacy is multifaceted. It has a lot of dimensions. Within the traditional diplomacy, there's something called tit-for-tat diplomacy. It's also part of diplomacy as well. There's also, again, for me, what is most fundamental is the diplomatic bargaining. You see, what is happening in South Africa will have grave repercussion, as we're already seeing. Look at the case of Namibia and the action that has been taken. Nigeria also needs to speak up. And in this instance, we need to match our words with action, decisive action. And part of the things that could be done as far as this kind of relation is concerned. So, yes, it's not a
power. The question of dominance of foreign nationals in illegal trading and also businesses that are here in Hillbrow is an economic sabotage that is taking place against our people that were supposed to be those that are running those particular businesses. We are facing here service delivery protest.
Well, quite unfortunate they're coming from a deputy police minister of South Africa. As Kingsley, just as far as it stands, I don't know. I've not seen any video from the standpoint of the president of South Africa or any other government official higher than himself. So we hope that we'll get a more sustainable standpoint from the South African government.
I just wondered. I mean, the point is, if a cabinet member is speaking this way, what instigation or what vibration does that send to the officers who are on the beat to maintain law and order? Dr. Imam, your closing thoughts.
This is an institution speaking, and it is sad. He represents South Africa, and these are the sort of rhetorics that we're getting. It justifies the position of people who say the government is complicit in what is going on. Yes, of course, we should see international regimes and international instruments wade into the situation to see how we can tame the tide of what is going on. The African Union is a very good platform that should be used or harnessed to be able to see how we can tame the tide of what is going on. But beyond that, for me, I think this is a wake-up call for governments of states, sovereigns, to wake up to the realization that so long as you do not create the platform, the climb for people to strive and thrive, these are the sort of things that you will see. These are the kind of situations and repercussions you will